And now, another episode of the Game Changers podcast with Sydney and Luke Hurst.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Game Changers podcast. It is your usual host, me and my twin brother, Luke. We have a really cool guest coming on today. But before we get them on, we are going to do our usual rundown in the world of sports. And to start off, way to go, O's, because they kind of defied all odds. Everyone was really pushing against them. They were like, oh, they're taking on the Rays, they're taking on the Braves, all of those things. And they were like, oh, they've had easy competition. Gunnar Henderson really isn't that good. They're going to lose. What has happened?
They are now on a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah.
They swept the Rays for 4.
Yep.
And played really well in those 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I went blurry for a second. Sorry. And then they are now playing the Braves, who they have beaten now first 2 games of the series. And the Braves, I can't remember what their record is, but they're pretty good still this year. So they're playing well. And there was a thing I saw at the beginning of the month that if like the Orioles can get through the month of June, they're going to make the playoffs because they play one team, I think, if that, below 500. So if they can get through the month, they'll be fine. They just have to get through this month. They get through this month in the dog days of summer, as I call it, June, July, and August. They get through one of those months. They're going to be good. They still have 100 games left. Like, they're fine. But these games seem not important at the moment because there's still 100 games left, but every game matters because at the end of the season, you can miss the playoffs by one game. In that one game, game 65 or game 101 could matter towards that.
I mean, at the end of the day, every pitch counts, every game
Exactly.
counts, every at-bat counts,
Exactly.
truly. And I think the Orioles play a really good game like that.
Yes. I agree.
It could be the bottom of the 7th and we could be down 4 runs and the energy does not change.
No.
Whether they're home or away.
Very, very good team right now. And guys who have come up, like we had a couple guys get injured that were supposed to be fine this year, like Tyler Wells and John Means both got injured again. And one of them, I think John Means needs Tommy John surgery again for the second time in like 3 years, which sucks. So like we had our good starters who were coming back off injuries and we were anticipating them to have a good year. And now that they're injured again, like we just brought up Cade Povich. He didn't have the best first start of his career, but his second start today was phenomenal. He went 6 innings, 5 hits. It was like 6 innings, 5 hits, no walks, 6 Ks. Phenomenal for your second start in the MLB. So I think that they're good. And Mateo just came off the IL. Hayes just came off the IL. Both yesterday came back really well and pretty much won us the game. And then Cowser, being a good rookie, won us the game today. So, like, it's not just Gunnar and Adley and O'Hearn and Mountcastle leading the team. It's everybody. And if those guys have off days, the young guys play well or vice versa. So, like, it's a good mix.
I totally agree. There's something about that team. I don't remember who I was telling, but there are some teams that do really well when they have a bunch of individual talent, but there's something really special about a team that really works together. And I've always said this from the time that I started watching the Orioles is there's something about their team that their team dynamic is really, really, really good. I don't really know what it is, but that they just trust each other on the field. Yeah. And someone's having a bad day, someone's not in the lineup, it's not going to change anything.
Mm-hmm. I think that has something to do with how they've rebuilt the team and how Mike Elias has done that, because they all have played together for a certain length of time. They've rebuilt from the ground up within. When you rebuild from within, everybody has known each other from single A, double A, triple A, and now the majors. So they've played with each other for a while, and they understand how to be a team. But like, I can't use the Yankees as an example because they're playing well. But you look at, like, perfect example, the Mets 2 years ago had the highest payroll in baseball, had all of these great players on the team, had probably the most stacked lineup possible, and sucked. And yes, they bought the best players in the world, but just because you're buying the best players in the world doesn't mean you're going to play well together. Moneyball is a perfect example. If you haven't watched the movie, watch it. Phenomenal movie. It's about the Oakland Athletics who didn't have enough money, pretty much. They're not a high market team. They're a low market team. So they don't have enough money like the Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Red Sox, Giants, like these bigger market teams to afford these big players. So they would go out and buy players that they thought would fit into their team. And I think that's what the Orioles have done. They've drafted well, and they've found guys that may not, like Gunnar Henderson was a second-round pick. They found guys that may not be like the top-of-the-line guys, but are fitting well into what they want. And I think that's how you build a good team. So
I completely agree.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I really think that the Orioles are doing a really good job and picking people that might not, that fit in, like you said, fit into the team really well, and not just statistically look good. You know, their numbers probably are great, but there's probably other people that have better numbers, but the camaraderie isn't there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think well, I guess going along with baseball, we have some really exciting news. Kind of personal. Our friend Jackson Merrill, 21 years old and 54 days old. They MLB posted today. I don't know why they put 54 days.
Because it matters in the
It does. But anyway, he is the youngest player with a multi-home run game, including a walk-off home run in at least the divisional era since 1969, which is wild. First of all, he's only 21. He's been in the pros, like playing for the Padres since opening day, right? I mean, he was drafted almost 2 years ago, but
he was drafted in 2021? 2021.
Oh, was it 21? Okay, so almost 3 years ago.
22.
You're right. Almost 3 years. But, I mean, he's incredible. And it was today. It was their game today. He hit a home run, and then he hit a walk-off to win it for them.
Yeah, they were up 1-0 in the fifth when he hit the first home run. It was 406, 108 off the bat to dead center. And then,
gosh, I wish I wasn't working so I could have seen it.
That was left on left. I was playing a game at that point too, but I saw it online. That was left on left, which is huge for a 21-year-old.
Huge.
And then his walk off, it was 3-3, I believe, and it was off their closer. Miller, who is phenomenal. There have been teams asking to trade for him the entire year, but nobody matched the A's requests. He's probably one of the best closers in baseball right now. And Jackson got a hanging curveball down and in and nuked it for the walk-off. It's the Padres back to hit. Kyle Higashioka hit a walk-off home run yesterday. For them, so that's back-to-back walk-off home runs.
Back-to-back walk-offs is wild.
Crazy.
That's another team that has a really good camaraderie. There's something about their environment, and just watching them on TV. Like, I mean, they have a lot of talent on that team, and Jackson is definitely one of them. I think that he has so many aspects. Like, he's only 21, but there's something about him that he's been playing like a pro guy since he was like 15. Mm-hmm. He has the build, the mentality, the swing, the oh gosh, what is it? Like the determination, like on the field, like he does not hesitate, which I think is why he can play anywhere. The ball comes to him. You're pretty confident he's going to get it. So
he's a natural ball player. There's no place he can't play on the field. He just has the ability to play anywhere.
Completely agree.
So on to college baseball now. I have some stuff for college baseball. Um, just to put it this way, I'll ask you a question and I'll see if you answer the what I'm
Oh
hoping.
no.
Um, what, in your opinion, are the two best baseball conferences in college baseball? Do you have any idea?
All right. Well, just because I guess I'm biased, I would say, I mean, SEC, and I know this isn't the right answer, but ACC.
That is the right
But
answer.
it is the
Um,
right answer.
yes, it is.
Yes.
So those
Let's
two
go.
conferences are the only two conferences that have teams in the College World Series.
No way.
Yes, there's 8 teams that make it to the College World Series. Four or five are from the SEC, and three or four are from ACC. Can't remember the
Wow.
exact numbers. But yeah, I think it's absolutely crazy that only ACC and SEC teams made it. Just shows you the baseball in the South.
Mm-hmm.
You take Boston College as a North team and Syracuse as a North team in the ACC, but I mean those are two outliers. Everybody else in the ACC and SEC is South, and the ACC and SEC are both adding very good teams next year. Um, but yeah, I think that's just absolutely crazy that there are
I
two
think
con-
it's interesting because like especially like high
Well,
draft picks in the past, and like Oregon State, for example, is not in either of those,
no, I
right?
agree. I agree.
They just might not be good this year, like as good, College World Series level good this year. I mean, Tennessee and Kentucky really good this year. They just got they just play really well.
Well, and it's not even that. Like, yes, they're playing well, but if you look at baseball as a whole, any team can beat any team on any day. That's what makes
Completely.
baseball so beautiful is the best team may not win. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
why you see baseball with 7 game series. I mean, I know every sport has 7 game series in the playoffs, but baseball I feel like is the one that needs it the most because one team can get hot really quickly and win 2 games or win 1 game and you're done.
Yep.
So like that's why I think like all the good teams made it this year, which is surprising because usually there's a Cinderella that makes it, or like
An outlier. Yep.
an outlier, like when Coastal made it, or when who was the last team?
Yes.
Oral Roberts made it, and then like a couple years ago, there was another team that won the national championship. That was a Cinderella, but I can't remember what the team was called at the moment.
Can't remember either.
But yeah, like
But
it,
like,
and the, 2 years ago, Notre Dame, with the guest that we have on later, he was on that team when Notre Dame beat the #1 overall seed in Tennessee, and probably the best college baseball team ever. Um, so like it's all just who gets hot, and I think that's a testament to baseball. But the fact that all ACC and SEC teams made it, and Power Five pretty much made it. There was no mid-major teams in it. Um, just shows you how good these teams actually are.
all right. Well, on that note, we will introduce our very special guest who was, in fact, on that Notre Dame College World Series team. Please welcome Roman Kimball of South Carolina Baseball. Hi, Roman. How are you?
I'm good, Sydney. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you again as well.
So, for those of you that don't know, so I worked for South Carolina Baseball my freshman year, and Roman was on the team that year. And so, Roman and I know each other, have known each other for a few years. So, it's good to see him again, especially since I don't work for the team anymore. So, I don't see him quite every day. You know, I'm not doing your laundry as I did. So, that's a plus.
Yeah.
But how are you? Where are we finding you right now?
Good. I'm still in Columbia. Going to be training here this summer, and then got a couple events I'm going to be going to before the draft, and then kind of see what happens from there. And then, could be back here, could be off somewhere playing pro ball next year. It's crazy time. The summer is always a crazy time, especially when you're eligible for the draft because there's a lot of unanswered questions, and especially when your head coach is kind of under question right now. It's tough to say, but yeah, just training here this summer, being with the guys, had a lot of fun so far. So enjoying my time in Columbia. Nicer weather than where it would be if I was up at home in New York, because South Carolina weather is pretty unbeatable, but it has been rainy lately, and I'm not really liking that. But hopefully it'll.
No, it's, I mean, we're east of you, but it has been gross and so many thunderstorms, which I actually love thunderstorms, but rainy, not good for baseball. So
Not good.
not good at all, no. But so, okay, so for people that don't know, what year are you in school?
So I'll be a senior next year, but I'll be a junior on the field because last year I had surgery on my elbow. So got a medical red shirt and didn't play at all last year and missed the season. So I got that year back. So I still have 2 years of eligibility left for NCAA, which is pretty cool. So
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about growing up in New York. You mentioned you grew up in New York. Like I I've worked with a lot of baseball players that are from New York, and there's a lot of freaking talent up there. So tell me a little bit about like your childhood and I guess like kind of growing into the love for baseball that you have.
yeah, so got into baseball when I was super young. I remember playing like wiffle ball back in the backyard with my parents when I was like 2 or 3 years old. So that was kind of where my love for the game started. And then my dad was a huge Yankees fan, so grew up watching the Yankees. I mean, my role model growing up was Derek Jeter. So watched basically all the games when he was, like playing every day before he retired, and like saw him win a World Series in 2009. And that was kind of like, man, like baseball is really one of my passions, and that's something that I want to do. So got into baseball, like I said, super young, and then started playing t-ball, I think, when I was like 4. And then, with the winters up north, it's kind of tough to play baseball year round.
Brutal.
Yeah, so had to go indoors a lot, especially when I was like growing up and getting to like 10, 11, 12. We had like an indoor facility up there that we would go to and train there in the summer, or in the winter, I mean, when there was snow outside. So we were very fortunate enough to have that. And one of my friends, actually, his dad owned the complex, so we could just go in and work out whenever we really wanted to, which was cool.
How nice is that?
And yeah, it was very convenient and got very lucky with that. So yeah, but I'm an upstate New Yorker, so I'm not down in the city with all the traffic. So I'm kind of upstate in a little town called Utica. But yeah, growing up, baseball is not a huge thing in upstate New York. So, had to kind of branch out as I got older. I started playing for a team in Albany called the Greene County Outlaws, and that was kind of the first team that I started playing for that wasn't like super local. And then after that, found a team out in Long Island called the East Coast Lumberjacks, and that was kind of what started my whole recruiting process, and going to tournaments down in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, like all across the East Coast. And first or second tournament I played with them, I went and pitched against a really good team, and then threw extremely well. There were like 16 Division I schools there, and then took a couple visits to a couple different schools, and then ended up committing to Notre Dame in my sophomore year of high school in the fall. And I'm super young for my grade, so like I don't turn 21 until September, and I'll be a senior. So I committed to Notre Dame, I think, when I had just turned 15. So I was
That's
super young.
wild.
Like that was like 5 or 6 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that was crazy. And then so then junior year hit, and then COVID kind of became a thing, and wasn't sure if we were going to have a season my senior year, because junior year it got canceled because of COVID. So had to find ways to stay in shape and train and stuff like that throughout my junior year. But all the stuff in the summer circuit and summer ball was still going on. It was just like super secluded. Like only
Sure.
like only like 1 or 2 games would go on at like 8 field complexes. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, so that was a crazy time. And then senior year
Yeah.
came, and wasn't sure if we were going to have a season at all, because New York was really strict with COVID. So ended up going down to P27, which is in Lexington where you work now.
Yes.
So ended up going there for my senior year. Definitely prepared me for college. Was a crazy experience. Had a lot of fun there, met a lot of new people, and made a lot of new friends too. But yes, that was kind of what introduced me to South Carolina baseball, and just going to games there and seeing the atmosphere and what it was like there, and just the tradition that South Carolina baseball has of being one of the best teams in the country almost every year. Was something that really intrigued me. So ended up going to Notre Dame my freshman year, and then had a really good year. Like ended up going to Omaha. We're a couple wins away from winning a national championship, and had an absolute blast. But I kind of knew at the end of the year that like maybe I wanted to go somewhere else because it was super cold up there, and I wanted to get away from the winter time because I'd spent all my life in the winter, and it's just such a pain in the butt to kind of navigate through the winter and train and stay in shape and stuff like that because we have to be indoors a lot, and it's definitely an advantage to be outside all year, especially at the college level because a lot of players are like pretty much every player is really good once you get to Division I. So that was something that I wanted to do, and then the head coach ended up taking a different job at Florida State, so he left, and then that was kind of when I was like, all right, like I think I'm gonna explore some other options and see where I can go. And right when I hit the portal, I knew that South Carolina was where I wanted to go. So talked to my agent. He kind of got me in touch with the coaches, and the rest is history. And here I am, and I've loved my 2 years here, every single moment of it. Like even the wins and the losses and the ups and the downs and everything. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I've had a blast here in Columbia.
Oh, I love that. What a story, for real. Originally, what I guess was the reason that you wanted to go, that you picked Notre Dame? I mean, you're from New York, so I totally understand. Yeah. But Notre Dame is still pretty cold. And did you have any other offers?
So I talked to a couple different schools, but Notre Dame was actually the only offer I had. But I was super, super young. Like I said, I was like 15. And I think there were like 16 Division I schools at that one game I pitched, and I had thrown really well. And at the time, super small, was like 5'7", 5'8", didn't weigh a ton, and wasn't throwing very hard. So it's just kind of like screw everybody else. There were like 15 teams there, and I was talking to Boston College, Virginia Tech, and Notre Dame, and that was kind of when I was like, all right, well, there were 16 other teams. Like, if they aren't interested, then why even wait? Because they've had their chance. So took a visit to all three schools and kind of went to Notre Dame and felt like it was a home for me. The tradition there was super cool, like with all their sports and just the academics, which is obviously important to me. So that was a super cool opportunity to have. And, I really liked the pitching coach there a lot too. And, had a good relationship with him when I was getting recruited in high school and when I was there my freshman year. So that was another thing that played a factor as well, and ultimately led to my decision to committing there. So that was super cool, that whole process.
That's awesome. In regards to, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this question. Also, I totally forgot what I was going to ask, and now I can't remember.
I'll ask then.
Go for it.
How have you been able to, well, first of all, did you pitch in the Super Regional Series against Tennessee?
No, I didn't throw.
Okay. So that was just a quick question. But the real question is, have you had issues with like balancing the baseball and school and social life being at a Power 5 SEC school? Like, is there any challenges with that, or is it just like normal from going from Notre Dame to South Carolina?
Yeah, so this year for sure was super difficult. Last year was a little easier just because I wasn't playing because I was just doing rehab and stuff. And, I was basically kind of just documenting everything that I did rehab-wise throughout the year. And that was pretty easy because, like I wasn't like playing in any games. Like I was just kind of doing my own thing during practice and like was just kind of on my own schedule. So it was a lot easier to get all that stuff done when, you don't have to worry about traveling and, like, all right, well, I got to be here at this time for practice. Like it was a lot easier last year. And then this year it was definitely a lot harder. I struggled to kind of keep up a consistent schedule with, posting on YouTube and stuff like that. And it was way more difficult than what I expected. But it was still a cool thing to do because, it keeps you busy and, keeps you locked in on the things that you're, focused on in college. And especially during the school year, it's tough too, because you got like homework and projects and stuff like that. And you got to go to class and all that. So it's definitely a super difficult thing to do. And, I've just, become super good at managing my time the best I can. And even though I still manage my time really well, I still sometimes fall behind just because of how busy it gets during the season. But yeah, it's a tough thing to do. And this year was definitely the toughest I've had because of how busy we were. And especially like once the postseason hit, because we were on the road for pretty much every weekend because we finished the regular season in Tennessee. Then I think we had 1 or 2 days here in Columbia, and then we hit the road to the SEC tournament and then made a run there. So we were there for almost a week. And then like right after that, you come back for the selection show, you're home for a couple of days, and then you're right back on the road to go to NC State. So, and then, like once the season's over, like this was kind of like the first time that I've actually had time to just decompress and not have to worry about anything. So I was like, all right, like I'm going to take a little time for myself and just kind of relax a little bit. So that was nice. But yeah, like the end of the season, it was a long stretch of being on the road and staying in hotels and basically living out of a suitcase. So that was the most difficult it was all season.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm so sure. But, and that it definitely, so with all of that time management, how do you prioritize what you do first, what's important to you, especially with your YouTube? Like, tell us a little bit about how you, I mean, I know that last year probably was a little bit easier because you probably had a little bit more time on your hands, and definitely more mental space, I guess. Because I remember you would be filming all the time. You were always at the field, even though your arm was hurt. And you were definitely like the rehab and bouncing back was definitely a priority to you. But having to worry about actually being on the mound during a game is very different. How did you prioritize and compartmentalize everything that was going on in your life?
Yeah, so obviously for me, baseball is the number one priority. Like baseball was most important to me this year for sure. With it being my draft year and being eligible for the first time since high school, and trying to win a national championship, and we also had a new pitching coach this year, so that was an adjustment, and trying to create a relationship with him. And there's lots of other stuff that went on this year, with it being my draft year. Like I had a bunch of interviews with teams, and you got to constantly be talking to your advisor on what's going on and stuff. So that was definitely an adjustment for sure. But still being able to film the games and stuff like that was something I was fortunate enough to do this year. And Coach Kingston loved the videos because it helped a lot with recruitment. And I think the other coaches really liked it too because, it made their job a lot easier to just be like, hey, like go look and see what our days in life are like at South Carolina. And I know Kingston really used the video that I made last year before the postseason started of like the hype video. And he sent that to a bunch of kids last year, like recruiting them out of the portal and high school kids and stuff like that. So that was really
Oh, I
cool
love that.
yeah, that was super cool to be able to, like have him show my work to other people and try to get them to come here. So that made me feel really good, and it helps me feel like I'm like helping the program get better as well because we're bringing in new guys every year, especially with the portal nowadays. Like things are pretty hectic, so to be able to help any way I can with that stuff is super important. But yeah, like this year was definitely a lot different going out there and actually pitching, like especially doing kind of both, like starting and coming out of the bullpen. This year it was tough. So like whenever we were at home, it was definitely easier at home because like people who weren't playing or who were hurt, I could just be like, oh, like can you take the camera for the rest of the game and just kind of do your best. So that was something I had to do this year, which was a little different. And going back and looking at footage and be like, man, like I wish I could have shot this because like it wasn't as good as what it would have been if I had actually done it. But yeah, but still, like I feel like the fans just really enjoyed anything that I put out there just because like they love connecting with players on a personal level. So that's something that I really like to like allow the fans to do is kind of get to know like me and the rest of the guys who want to be a part of it. So yeah, but it was a lot harder this year than what I thought it was going to be, and I feel like I kind of did the best I could to kind of incorporate, like my personal life and the side of baseball in there as well, and kind of getting like people to know me while also showing like kind of what our daily lives were like this year at South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that YouTube videos, and I think a lot of people are starting to do it now, like facility tours and everything like that, really helps the recruiting part. And I think it's really cool that you also see that that's an aspect. It's not just you personally; it's the program as a whole. And I think that that's really refreshing to hear from a D1 SEC athlete that what they're doing is helping the program as a whole, which is awesome. So. But also, so I guess going along with the YouTube aspect, how did you get into that? And does it kind of incorporate into your major in college? And where do you see it going?
Yeah, so to answer the first part, I started when I was at P27. I kind of just had the idea to kind of do like a team sort of thing. And then like I was like, oh, like I feel like this would be fun to do and just kind of incorporate everybody because I know we had a couple kids who did social media on there and they thought it was a good idea. So kind of just started from there. And then like once we kind of got things going at P27, it kind of veered off and just kind of fell. And I was like, you know what, like I kind of want to do this and just kind of see what happens. So ended up making the channel and just kind of started, filming whatever I could and trying to make videos the best I could because like I had never done anything like this before. So I didn't really know like what clicked and what didn't, or like hadn't found my style like with filming and editing and stuff like that. So it was all super new and I was still learning back then, but that was kind of when I started. And then like once I like started actually like investing more money into it and more time, like bought my first camera and that's the one I still use today. And it's done very well for me. So, but yeah, once I got the camera and bought my, editing software, because I was using the X video or whatever, the iMovie, I think it's called or something like that.
Oh gosh, I tried to use iMovie the other day, and it is so outdated. I used to use it all the time, like back in you know years ago when we did our
Yeah,
YouTube videos. But
yeah, I think it
it's
is
yeah.
iMovie. But yeah, so I was using that for a while and then um, switched to Final Cut Pro, which is like Apple's version of like, I guess, Adobe Premiere. So started using that. And that was kind of when I found my stride and what I wanted to like create and started taking a lot more time editing and learning the software and just becoming more familiar with it so I could do the most that I could with it. And then once I got to college and we started playing well, and then we got to Omaha my freshman year, that was kind of when I got a lot more exposure. And then I came to South Carolina and the coaches thought it was a super cool idea and like gave me a lot more access than what I had at Notre Dame, because Notre Dame, they kind of were a little hesitant about letting me kind of do my own thing with it. So once I had kind of free will to do whatever, like it was super cool to be able to have that. So, filmed every single game last year because that was kind of what I was, passionate about. And that's kind of what kept me, in a good headspace, was being able to kind of feel like I was part of a part of the team, like in a different way. And like,
Oh,
obviously,
absolutely.
like, still, it helped me feel like I was a part of the team and the guys would look forward to, seeing the final results every week of the series win or whatever it was. But, so
And
yeah,
being
that
in
was,
it, yeah.
yeah, and just being in it and seeing all the goofy stuff that they would do, whether it was like McCreary like screaming in the camera or
Oh my
like
gosh. Well,
Evan
I'm sorry to
Stone.
interrupt, but like, what was it like to? Because you were at P27 with him, right?
No, but I've known
No,
Connor.
he was the year after. Okay.
Yeah, I've known Connor for like 5 years though. So because I played travel ball with him when I was in high school. So
Okay.
yeah, but me and Connor go way back. But he's a character for sure.
He
Um,
so oh gosh, that was good content. Yeah.
yeah, he is funny. But yeah, whatever the crazy antics were, like they would all love that stuff. So but that was kind of when it all started. So that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
So I got the next question here. So with you being sidelined for 609 total days without getting into a game, what was going through your head and what kept you going? Like you just said, YouTube kept you going through getting through the down days when you couldn't be couldn't be on the field helping the team win. But what kept you going through those 2 years?
Yeah. So this is a great question. I get this a lot actually. But the biggest thing for me was just kind of, putting in all the hard work to be able to play the game that I love again. Because, like a serious injury like I had, it's becoming more and more common now, but like just because it's more common doesn't mean that it's not a serious thing. So, you got to be very like articulate and determined. And like, even though things can become monotonous a lot of the times, like you still kind of just have to stick with it and trust the process. And the biggest thing that I took away from it and that helped me was just taking the small wins along the way. So whether it was like, getting the brace off or starting a new exercise in rehab or like my first throwback, like those were all things along the way that I looked at and was like, okay, like you had a great day today. Like you accomplished something new. And like, now it's just working as hard as you can to get to the next something new. And then, like once the big day came and I got out there on the mound, like it was just pure joy. Like you work so hard for that moment and to be able to get the experience that I had and, the support from my teammates. Like that was just something that I'll never forget and probably was one of, if not the best moment of my career. But, there are a lot of things that kept me going. Like the super regional loss last year in Florida was something that had always just stuck with me and still does, because, like losing in a super regional and you were so close to going to Omaha and, getting a taste of Omaha my freshman year, like you always want to be going to Omaha every single year you play because that's what you work all year for.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to a super regional and come up short and you were so close to getting back to Omaha, like it just sticks with you and resonates with you. And that's like all you can think about when you love baseball that much. And, like when you have as tight knit of a group as we had the last 2 years, like it sticks with you. And like, you always keep that in the back of your head whenever you're at the field. So that was another thing that always kept me going was just that constant thought of going to Omaha and returning South Carolina back to where it should be, which is the best in the country.
Preach. I'm a little bit biased, but I totally agree.
Yeah.
What was regionals like this year? Like how was it, I guess, as from a team perspective, but also from a personal perspective, now that you contributed on the field with the team? How was that, I guess, in the like regular season and postseason? What did that feel like compared to last year?
Yeah. It's tough to say. Like I feel like we definitely had a lot more in the tank than what we showed this year. Just had a lot of ups and downs, and we had a lot of things this year that just didn't go our way, and sometimes that's baseball. But yeah, being a part of that regional this year, and I don't know if we got shut out all year this year, and then losing in like ending our season with getting shut out was really tough. And then you kind of like get the thoughts of like, oh, like what's going to happen now? Like is our head coach going to be on the hot seat? Are all the coaches going to leave? Are people going to transfer? Like what's kind of going to happen? So, all those emotions all hit you all at once, and it's really tough. Sure. You realize like there are guys on the team who won't be back next year, and it's like you're never going to be able to play with those guys again. So it's very emotional, and especially me being on the field this year. Like last year, I was way more upset because I never got a chance to play with those guys. But this year, it was just more so of like, yeah, I was definitely upset, but I was also angry because I feel like we didn't play as well as we should have, and I feel like everybody on the team would agree with that as well. And like we feel like we should still be playing right now, and I feel like a lot of people outside of our field feel like that too. So But yeah, I mean, it's obviously super emotional. A lot of thoughts go through
Sure.
your head, and it sucks for sure. But for me personally, I feel like it was just such a privilege to be able to go out there this year and pitch again. And even though the year may not have gone the way I wanted it to, and or performed the way I wanted to, like it was just still such a blessing to be able to go out there and be healthy, and help the team win some games this year. So that was something that really stuck with me personally, and made me feel good because I put in a lot of hard work to get back out on the field. So that was super cool to be able to go out there and pitch this year. So
Oh yeah. And I mean, anyone who watches you pitch can feel the energy. Do you just, I mean, it's like you turn into a different person.
yeah.
What, I mean,
Yeah.
where do you get all that energy from?
Yeah, that's just how I've always been. Like I feel like I've always kind of had that like different persona when I'm out there, because
Mhm.
for me, like I'm a very intense person when I'm pitching, and like things just like become totally different for me, and like I kind of get into that like killer mindset of just like, all right, like it's just me, the ball, and the catcher, and like
Yeah.
that's it. Like I'm gonna throw it by you, and like I'm gonna have fun while I'm out there. And like when I'm having fun is when I'm like super intense, and I'm super confident in myself, and I walk around the mound with that swagger. So yeah, but that's definitely something that's super unique about me. I remember my first outing this year, like my first hitter back from surgery, like I struck him out, and I was walking around the mound, and I just like blacked out. Like I was like pretty much blacked out that whole start because I was just so happy to be back out there. But like
Oh, I'm sure.
I was saying some not so nice things that I won't repeat, but like it was super crazy. But yeah, so that was kind of like that whole thing started on Twitter, and then like everybody saw that, like me walking around the mound and saying what I was saying. So that was like a huge thing at the beginning of the year. But that was super cool though, because like that's me when I'm out there. Like I like to go out there and
Yeah.
have fun, super intense and confident. And I feel like when I'm out there and I'm like confident and intense, like I feel like that carries like to the rest of the team. So just kind of set the tone early, and
Yep.
hopefully the team kind of gets that vibe, and they do the same thing. So
Oh yeah. You
whatever
gotta
I can
keep
do to
it.
help the team win. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Kind of going along with the team aspect. When I can't speak for everybody, but when I was in the recruiting process for like gymnastics, the transfer portal wasn't really a thing. It wasn't. It's kind of started to pick up, and I mean, you're on the team. We got 24 new guys from last year. Like it's a totally different team. What what is that like from a team perspective, but also not necessarily just baseball, because I know that sometimes you have good teams that aren't might not be the most talented, but there's so much trust on the field that they play really really well. What is it like from that perspective, like on the field, but also like you said, you build really good relationships with these guys. You see them more than you see anybody else. What is that like from an athlete perspective?
yeah, so the first thing I'm going to say is that I feel like we were a super welcoming group. Like we got to know each other really well. But I mean, I can't say that goes for every other team in the country or every other sport in the country. But like since we're kind of the first generation that's had to really experience the transfer portal, I feel like it's still kind of a work in progress. Like I feel like now, like we're going into the third year of it, and like I feel like it's going to be like the new normal, because like college coaches are obviously going to take like an experienced player who has Division 1 experience or college experience, especially in baseball. Like they can pull Division 2 guys. Like for example, like we had Dalton Reeves this year. Like he started his career at a Division 2 school, and then went to a mid-major Division 1 for a couple years, and then ended up at South Carolina, and he had a great year for us this year. So anything can happen. But I will say though that the college coaches are going to prefer a experienced college guy over an incoming high school freshman. So that's the new age that we're in. So it's tough to say. Like I mean, me myself being in the transfer portal and kind of experiencing a new school, like all the guys when I was there were super welcoming, and brought me in like a member of a family. So it was super cool. And I feel like that's like kind of what it would be like at a lot of schools is because, like if you get the right players, and I feel like if you're hitting the transfer portal, like you're kind of trying to find a new home, but the guys who stay at their old schools, like those guys, like that is their home. So like they're going to kind of bring you in to their home, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's a super cool thing. And I feel like it's changing the game for sure because guys can just kind of go wherever they want now. Like, I know a couple of my buddies like played at mid-major schools, and they entered the transfer portal this year, and they're getting looked at by a bunch of big SEC schools. So it's crazy. But I think it's cool, and especially with NIL too. Like, I feel like it gives players opportunities to make money, and like not all Division I athletes and college athletes are like super rich. So for those guys to be able to make some money while they're playing at college, I feel like that's goes into a decision for where people want to go to, because like if somebody's offering a kid $100,000 to go play there and they're getting a full scholarship on top of that, like that's like life-changing money for some people. So that's another cool thing about it too. So it's still early, but I feel like there's a lot of positives to it. There are also some negatives too. Like I feel like that's kind of with everything you get. There's always positives and negatives, but like I said, it's still in the early stages. But I feel like down the road in a couple years, it's going to be the new norm, and I feel like it kind of already is becoming that. So yeah, but like I said,
Absolutely.
lots of positives and negatives about it. But in my opinion, I think it's good for college baseball. So
I agree. And looking back now, I guess as a recruit, like if you were a high school recruit going and looking at colleges, would you look at the recruiting process a little bit different, knowing that like going to Notre Dame would just be a stepping stone to go to South Carolina?
yeah, I guess I've never really thought of that. For me, like once I transferred to South Carolina, I kind of had wished that I had committed here my freshman or my sophomore year of high school, just because like I had a great relationship with Coach Barker last year, and like he before I got hurt, like we had changed a lot of things, and I was throwing the ball really well before I got hurt, and was probably going to have a really really good year last year. So I was definitely thinking at first, I was like, man, like I definitely wish that I could have came here out of high school if I had just waited a little bit and let my body develop and my career develop like until like my junior or senior year. But COVID also played a role in that too, so it's tough to say what would have happened. But I do kind of feel like Notre Dame was a place where I needed to go to kind of get that experience. And like I think I pitched like 26 innings my freshman year, which is honestly pretty good. So
Mm-hmm.
I got 26 innings under my belt as a freshman, which was super, super helpful for my career and definitely got me ready to come here and play and try to help the team win. And also got, an experience to go to Omaha. Like that's like almost a once in a
It's
lifetime
huge.
experience. Yeah. So that was super cool too. And to kind of have that knowledge and come here to a program that is like built on winning the College World Series and, making College World Series appearances and being in the running every single year for a national title. Like I feel like that was an important, milestone to have in my career, especially bringing that here and trying to implement all those things that I had learned and had picked up along the way to try to help this team get back to Omaha and win a national championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, back a couple things. I just want to mention that with the transfer portal and how crazy that has become now. That like you don't have to sit out a year when you transfer to a D1 school. Like I had a friend I went to high school with who was at Maryland and transferred to Navy and had to sit out a whole year. And this was my freshman year of high school. So this was only like, I mean, yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was like 5 years ago that you had to sit out a whole year. And now you don't have to sit out any years, and they're starting to now pay you money. So like, it's been a huge change in the last 5 years to for how college athletics has changed players' minds and where they're going and who's deciding to go where based on what. But that was a good point. My next question is: do you have any like pregame little nitbits or superstitions that you have that puts you in the right mindset before you go out on the mound? And like, what does your pregame ritual consist of? Like, do you have to have a same meal or like throw the same amount of pitches, throw a football, throw a softball, anything like that?
I mean, I really don't have anything crazy. One thing that I do is like when I'm doing my band routine, I'll do the same number for each exercise. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't really do anything crazy. Like, I feel like a pregame ritual for me is more like a routine because like that's just kind of what I've like set my baseline to. So like I always kind of just go back to that and trust it. Like it's not like if I don't do it, then I feel like I'm going to do bad, like a superstition type of thing. But like I don't really have anything crazy. Like I feel like I've never really had anything super crazy like superstition or anything like that. I mean, I listen to music or two, but that's like I don't listen to all the same songs at the time. But yeah, nothing crazy.
That's actually shocking because baseball is known as like the superstitious sport. But I have heard from a lot of pitchers, at least, that I guess their superstitions, so to speak, turn into routines, and then they don't feel like superstitions.
Yeah,
like you said, the number thing. Yeah, that's totally normal.
We do have a lot of superstitious people on our team, though.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There are some crazy superstitious people on our team, and it's just like, man, like if you don't eat chicken minis today before the game, like it'll be okay.
It's gonna be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah. Man. Like you don't have to.
We don't need our rally gummy worm. Like I think we're okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's okay. Yeah. We can stay. We can change spots. I can go to the bathroom during this at bat, and that's okay. It's really okay. Have trust in the guy at the plate.
Yeah.
100%. So I saw that you have your own apparel. Now, do you design that yourself?
Yeah, I've done all the designs. That was kind of a new thing for me too, because I had to kind of get into designing. And like graphic design is not my thing. Like I took a class this semester or last semester on graphic design, and it was so much work and I had no time to do it. So I just dropped the class, but it was super difficult. And so definitely took a lot of time to get the designs done, and probably did it in a way that I shouldn't have because I used Photoshop for most of it. And like Photoshop is not really a graphic design like application. So that was a whole thing, but I feel like they kind of came out not too bad. Like, cause I didn't want to make it too much. Like I wanted to keep it pretty simple. And, I feel like my logo is pretty good. Like I've had that for a couple years now. And I like it. So I've just stuck with it. But, so all the designs I've made, and I think I've made a pretty good amount of money from it too. I don't know exactly. Awesome. Yeah, it is cool to have a source of income that's kind of just there, and it like can just come in whenever.
And you created it, and you created your brand yourself, which is so fulfilling.
Yeah, I probably should promote it a little bit more. Maybe I'll make a little bit more money, but
maybe.
Yeah.
Is that does that go with your major? Like, what is your major in college?
Yeah, so I'm majoring in visual communication with a concentration in sports media. So yeah, most of that stuff is related to my major, which is pretty cool because like I'm going to class and kind of taking some certain aspects away that I can incorporate into my videos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool to be able to do that. And then like sometimes I'll go into class and I'll already know some of these things just from having firsthand experience with it, which is also pretty cool because it's like, all right, well, that's one thing or one less thing I have to worry about. So that's something that I really enjoy about this place is that they have like a major that I can like take stuff from my classes and actually apply it. Because I feel like most majors nowadays, like you can't like go do engineering work until after you get your degree. So it's
right.
like, all right, well,
Until you
I
have a
to learn
job.
all this information for years before I even go and incorporate it into something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, at least this, like, I can, all right, like, I went to class and then, like, maybe I'm filming that day and I learned something. I'm like, all right, well, I can try this today.
Yeah.
So that's something super cool that I love about being a VisCom major. So, yeah, because I can
Yeah.
just apply whatever, which is neat.
Yeah. I think the fact that you've talked a lot about tradition, which I definitely feel at South Carolina. I've always wanted a lot of school spirit, and I think that we really have that. But I also think the fact that you can study sports at this school and it's very popular, whether it's visual communications, whether it's sports media, sports management, sports whatever it is, sports journalism. I think that that helps with the tradition, that helps with, like you said, applying it, because there's so much to be written about sports and broadcasting, and getting that done in school is really helpful, because I know that when I was in high school, I was like, why am I learning about 17th century China? Why is that
Yeah.
important?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't interest me, but
Yeah.
sports media, like that's very interesting. So I think that is fascinating. Do you plan to document kind of how this summer goes with the draft and kind of what that looks like as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, like in the summer, you kind of have your own schedule. So it's nice to kind of just be able to okay, I'm going to film today, instead of being like, all right, well, like I have to get a video out this week, so I like have to film today. So it's nice to kind of just be on my own time. And the summers here are a lot of fun too. Like we get after it here in the summer. We work our butts off in the weight room, and like, not everybody may be throwing, but like for me, like this year, like I'm going to the draft combine at the end of June. So like I have to kind of stay in shape arm wise, and throw every day still, to make sure that I'm ready for that. So, yeah, but there's a lot to document in the summers, and we have a lot of fun too, because we're not in the middle of a season. So we're not like kind of in play mode. We're kind of like, all right, like we're just going to, go to the field. We're going to work our butts off, but like, we're still going to have fun too. So, I
Absolutely.
remember some of my favorite videos were videos that I made last summer. And they were so much fun, and so many funny moments that you get in the summer too, because everybody's just a goofball on this team. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
completely. Well, it's, you're just a little bit more relaxed, which is nice.
yeah,
I think you need a little reset, especially after.
yeah, I do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Well, I think my last question is anyone kind of going through the recruiting process, or the transfer portal process, or even Tommy John, do you have any words of advice for any of them?
Yeah, so for Tommy John, I'd say the biggest thing that you can do is take the small wins along the way. That's what I tell everybody. Like I get a crazy amount of Instagram direct messages about like, hey, I just got TJ. Like, what do you think's best? Like, how did you get through it mentally? And I'm just like, look, like you just got to take all the small wins you can, because like if you're just constantly looking at the big picture of just playing in a game again, like you're just not going to be as productive, and you're not going to, admire everything along the way, and you're not going to be as good when you get back. You have to grind it out step by step, and you can't just look at it as one big thing. You have to look at it as like, all right, like I got this done, and like now I'm going to work towards this so I can get to that end result, because there's a lot of steps along the way that you have to conquer in order to reach that final result. Recruiting, transfer portal wise, like it's tough to say. Like for me, like I just knew that, Notre Dame wasn't where I was supposed to be when after my freshman year, with everything that happened. And like school wise just wasn't for me. That was when I kind of realized that like baseball needed to be priority number one, and it kind of felt like school and baseball were both priority number one. And for me, like with the goals that I have of, wanting to play professional baseball, like for me, baseball has to be priority number one, because that's what I want to do in life. So
Absolutely.
that was another thing that I really learned, is I feel like you need to set your priorities straight, and what you really want in life, to kind of help decide where you should and want to go. Whether it's you're getting recruited out of high school or you're in the transfer portal, And, like even with the transfer portal nowadays, I still feel like people are making decisions based on other things such as like money or like the uniform they put on or like just the history of the school. And like, even though that might not be the best fit for them, like they still might just go there just because of the name that is across their chest when they walk out on the field. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot of things that go into it. But I mean, if you're a kid in high school and you're getting recruited, I'd say best advice is go somewhere where you're wanted and go somewhere where you're going to play, because those two things are most important. Like, especially with the transfer portal nowadays, like it's so hard to come in as a freshman and get like consistent playing time. With everybody coming in from the portal, like I think there are over like 2,000 names in the transfer portal right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. So you got to work your butt off every single day. Like it is a grind, and it should be starting even younger than what it was like 5 years ago, just because of what's going on with everything. And like you have to work every single day if you want to play at a big school and you're an incoming freshman. But yeah, that's the best advice I got. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing for even like guys who want to go to D3 where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm at a D3 school, and it's still just as hard to get playing time as a freshman because you still have transfers. Like we're in a conference with Hopkins, and they're getting D1 transfers who have a couple years left eligibility or just coming off an injury, and they're getting cut from D1 schools. We had a kid on our team who got cut from UCF who came to our school because he got injured that year at UCF. So it's like it's mid-year transfers that you don't even know exist in the fall. So it's like it's so difficult to get playing time, and you just want to go somewhere where you're going to play, because if you're not playing, it's really tough to make it through the year mentally when the only thing you've loved is to play and you're not getting that time. It's a very tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's also knowing that those stepping stones, like you went to P27 or going to a D3 school or Notre Dame, I think knowing that they're just stepping stones, it's not the final destination, that you will find your South Carolina like you did, I think is something to remember for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, we have a few rapid fire questions, as you know, rapid fire. So, all right. Who's your favorite music artist?
Drake.
All right. Who is your favorite athlete? Is it still Derek Jeter? I knew it.
Derek Jeter.
What's your favorite pregame meal or snack?
Ooh, tough one. I'll just go with a protein shake. Actually, no, I'm going to go with an energy drink. I always drink an energy drink before I throw.
That's where all the energy comes from.
I can understand that. Pitchers, you need that little bit of adrenaline. Like we have guys on the team that just chugging energy drinks before games. I'm just like,
Need it. Need the caffeine.
Me, I'm a smelling salts guy. I will do a smelling salts before every single game.
Yeah.
Crazy. Do you have a favorite podcast or motivational speaker that you listen to?
No, I'm not a big podcast listener, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I'm
not either. So
I also don't have the time to just like listen to it.
Right. You're like, I have other things I have to do.
Like I'll occasionally watch like the Nelk Boys podcast, like if they have an interesting guest, but that's like it.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with everything. I can't wait to watch you document it the whole summer.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully it ends up with you getting your name called.
Yes, thank you.
That was awesome. He's such a talented guy. Multiple schools, multiple successes, and I feel
I think it's hard as it is just being a student athlete by itself, but then adding on top filming, editing you by yourself, doing all
rehab, right?
Rehab, getting your arm back to normal takes a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
On top of the YouTube, the editing, the classes, the
crazy
travel, I don't get it. I don't think it's possible. But
I feel like this is just the beginning of his career too. I feel like this is just the beginning, but I'm excited to see where he goes. So, pretty exciting.
Yeah. A couple things before we head out of here. The first time there were in Major League Baseball history, there were two starters from Nebraska that faced each other. For people who don't know a lot about college baseball, Big Ten schools are not very good. No offense to Maryland or any other Big Ten school. Like Michigan made it to the College World Series final a couple years ago.
They
But
did.
they're not very good because they're all northern teams and they tend to not get the best players. Not saying that their players that go there are bad, but SEC, ACC, Pac 12, Big 12 are usually, because they're farther south and they play all year round and it's warmer weather. Guys want to go where it's warmer. So, yeah, so that was the first time that's ever happened from Nebraska. And then for my softball fans out there, Athletes Unlimited Softball League is starting in 2025. That's a brand new pro softball league.
That's exciting.
4 teams, or it's either 4 or 6 teams, and they're playing 60 games total. So that'll be good. That'll be with the Oklahoma girls and the girls who graduated this year and have won 4 straight national championships, which is absurd. So yeah, that'll be fun. Keep a lookout for that next year. And then my last note that I have on sports before we head out is Maryland women's basketball team plays Duke this year. That'll be the first time they played Duke since they left the ACC at home. So that'll be a very, very big game in Maryland.
Wait, that's exciting.
Yeah, one of the biggest rivalries in college basketball.
Yeah.
Finally get to face each other again for the first time in like 15 years, something like that. No, not 15, I'm 20. Like 12 years.
It was so interesting. I was at work today and there were 3 like older women. They're probably in their 60s, maybe early 70s. And they were sitting at a table, and I go over to them, I introduce myself and whatnot. I sat there for probably 15 minutes, not sitting, I was obviously standing, but talked for them for 15 minutes about Tennessee and Gamecock basketball. And they were talking my ear off. I was like looking at them from afar, like no judgment, no stereotypes, but I would not expect them to like be spitting off stats and Dawn Staley and bleeding orange. Like there was none of that I was prepared for, and it was awesome. I was like, can I just like, pop a squat?
Did you give tables other attention? Like, did you like, I gotta go?
Oh, of course, but this was earlier, and we weren't busy at all. They were my only table, but I was like, can I just like pop a squat here? Maybe get I'll just get a little appetizer, and we can chat about sports. It was awesome, and then one of them tried to set me up with their son or grandson, so I was like, that's my cue.
Nice.
Yeah, she was like, I was like, he's all the way in Tennessee.
It's like that guy who left you his student ID number instead of his actual phone number, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It's fine. Anyway, life of a server, restaurant world, super fun. Anyway, so my fun fact, little tidbit of the day: the more you know, the better you'll be, the smarter you'll be, and the cooler you'll be to your friends. So, all right, Luke, this is my question. What sport is the only sport that has ever been played on the moon?
There was a sport played on the moon when they went?
Heck yeah, there is.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. Guess it. Now I need you to really think for a sec. Now, if I was imagine astronauts, what sport could be played on the moon?
Sorry,
now, if you think back,
I have a flashback to us playing the game with Caleb.
Oh, I know.
Every single time that word gets brought up, but
astronaut. Yeah. That was a good time. But think about it. It wouldn't be basketball, right? There's no hoop.
No.
So cross that one off. I know you did. I knew you were going to say basketball.
Soccer?
That's a great guess, but no.
Baseball?
According to the internet. So, we can use that as it will. Apparently, the only sport that has been played on the moon is golf.
They played golf on the moon?
In 1971 by Alan Shepard. Now, if somebody is listening to this and is like, that's so incorrect, blame Google.
It's so
This is not
sick.
coming from Sydney's brain.
Speaking of golf, watch the U.S. Open this weekend.
So excited. Dude, did you see the group? It's Rory, Scheffler, and Schauffele.
Oh yeah, that's a major group right there.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping, like, I know we are making this very long, but there's a lot to do that's going on.
There's a
So
lot.
I am just hoping the U.S. Open is supposed to be the hardest test in golf. They have had past instances where they lose the golf course, and for people who don't know what that means, it means that there are holes and greens that are literally unplayable because they're so hard, and the ball can't be controlled, basically. So, like, let's say you put a ball on a green and you drop it and it just rolls everywhere. Like, you can't control the green, and
You can't read it.
they've pretty much lost golf courses. Like, they completely burnt out the golf course, and you couldn't play on it, but they had to. So, I want it to be a hard test. I want it to be a traditional U.S. Open where they play and the winning score is 1 under or even.
Yeah, that would be nice rather than 16 under.
I would prefer it not to be 16 under, but I'm scared the first day they're going to be, like, worried about making it too difficult, so they're going to give up some scores on the first day. I don't really like that, but I understand it. But if it rains, it's going to be an easy golf course, or not easy. It's going to be an easier golf course where the winning score could be like 3 or 4 under. But if it doesn't rain, I'm very much hoping that it's the hardest golf course they've played in a while. So yeah, watch it. It's going to be good. There's a lot of amateurs playing. There's a lot of guys who had to qualify in local regionals to qualify to play in it. 55 to be exact that qualified in those local tournaments. So yeah, it's good. It's in Pinehurst,
Yeah.
North Carolina. Watch it.
Excited. Anyway, you guys have some homework to do. It means watching the College World Series and watching golf. So have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us this week, and we will see you next time when the Game Changers podcast projects.
First.
Adios.